One. Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novi-Williams, and this is the Edmonton Landlords Sports Business Podcast, the Sporticast.
The Edmonton Landlords. I'm trying to think what I would have done. Fire and Ice. This is something like that. The McReal Estate, something like that.
The Connor McDavid of real estate.
Yeah, the Connor McDavid of real estate. We do not often talk about the Edmonton Oilers on this show. When is the last time we discussed the Edmonton Oilers?
Certainly, I can't remember, but we have not talked about them off the ice all that often. That's
it's
sure.
when it has been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many? If I went back to the great Oilers teams that defeated the Islanders in '83, who would you name? How many of those Oilers
I could do a
ring
few.
true to you? Let me see.
Gretzky.
Great. Okay.
Messier,
well, if you missed that one, I would have been disappointed. Gretzky, Messier, Coffee. You've already impressed me. That you need
Grant
to know
Fuhrer.
those. If you're the goaltender, 1-0 in that first game against the Islanders, and I knew it was over. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's others that I'm confident in.
Hey, you had Craig McTavish.
Oh yeah, that guy was the last player
no
not to wear a
helmet.
helmet, right?
Yeah. Esa Tikkanen.
Esa Tikkanen, sure.
Okay, but you did very well. You
okay.
impressed me.
Yeah.
You impressed me there. Yes. I'm very, very pleased with you got the ones you needed to get. I mean, if you probably should have said Kevin Lowe, but if you didn't, it's okay.
Yeah, that one I don't know.
All right, but everybody knows Connor McDavid. Okay, great. You think, all right, and the headline on our story was like Connor McDavid is like what the most valuable asset that the Oilers have. Everybody in sports business knows what they've created in downtown Los Angeles around crypto.com, LA Live. Everybody knows, and this one gets a lot of attention, what has been created in Atlanta called The Battery. If you've been to Patriot Place, there's plenty of retail and commercial stuff around that. I got to tell you, as somebody who has been to Edmonton, I have been to Edmonton. And without saying the name of the tournament, but if I say the West Edmonton Mall, everybody will know what I was doing in Edmonton. But I got to tell you, I did not know a lot about the Ice District. I knew they had a significant real estate component because Kurt Bodnausen and I have talked about how we don't really include that in the valuations of the Oilers, at least not the majority of it, because that would make them the most valuable team in the league. And one of the things we say is if there was a transaction with the team, does the asset go with it, like as a no-brainer? And this is one where you could say no. You may sell the Edmonton Oilers, but you do not have to sell the real estate adjacent to the arena. So we do not include that as one massive thing. Anyway, tell me what you know about the Ice District, and please bring in a Manhattan frame of reference, because that is the one you and I were like, really? Huh? Don't tell me about that one.
Yeah, to take a step back, this is what the Oilers have built, or what the Oilers Entertainment Group and owner Katz have built in Edmonton. I think is it's the ideal situation for modern sports team owners.
Yeah.
Right. They obviously, teams are great and teams appreciate and value, but the real estate opportunity that the Oilers partially lucked into and partially very smart and saw the future before other people did. Edmonton is not a huge city. It already stands out, the Oilers do, in terms of most valuable sports teams in their leagues, because typically you overlay the most valuable sports teams with the largest cities, largest markets in those leagues, and you pretty much get the same list. Edmonton is not a city on par with a lot of the other major markets in the NHL, and yet the team is way more valuable. And what they've done,
Can I interject with some statistics right there? Can I interject with a statistic?
Yeah.
Okay, Edmonton in our valuations ranked number 8 at $1.6 billion. Yep. Every team ahead of the Oilers on the list is in a metro area with a population at least 3x of Edmonton. So that speaks exactly to what you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Edmonton's population, according to Wikipedia, is about 1 million people. Right. That is not a big city. That's Charlotte sized. Right. That's Austin, Texas sized. So it's not a huge market. What they've done so well is downtown arena, and then own and develop the land around it. They did this largely privately financed. The arena was the city footed a lot of the bill for that, but they've developed this 25 acre sports and entertainment district. You mentioned the comparison to New York. For folks who are listening here and know New York City, it's the second largest sports and entertainment, emphasis on entertainment development in North America right now, outside of Hudson Yards, to give you a sense of the scale.
And let's keep, by the way, there would have been a direct sports component to Hudson Yards years ago had the Jet Stadium been built as an anchor on the far west side. That was lobbied against by Jim Dolan. And for obvious reasons, didn't want another entertainment venue to compete with. But even that probably would have hastened the development of Hudson Yards, but did not ultimately stop it.
So the Ice District has shopping, dining, office space, casino. There's some residential. There's a JW Marriott that I think the team is a 50-50 partner in with Marriott. They're already monetizing and selling pieces of this. There's a 69-story commercial tower that they sold for $400 million. Kurt also has in here another office building sold to the Alberta pension manager for $300 million. There's multiple phases coming in the future. The second one I think is about to start right now. There's a lot going on here, and it was it sounds like the perfect tapestry for this. Edmonton was a city that had a lot of young people. There was a lot of movement to the city. It had a lot of vacant real estate downtown.
There's your key right there. Imagine downtown real estate available for development. Good luck finding that nowadays.
Exactly. And we see versions of this. I mean, you mentioned the Battery, right, which is the Atlanta Braves and their Liberty and their ownership group trying to create that, not in downtown Atlanta, obviously, but in a very different part. We see what Jeff Vinnick has accomplished in Tampa with the Lightning and the development there, what Shad Khan wants to do or is in process of trying to do in Jacksonville on the waterfront and downtown there. There's just not many cities where in this day and age you can come in and without paying an arm and a leg, get your hand on a lot of maybe potentially future valuable real estate to develop. So yeah, I think a lot of sports team owners look at what has happened in Edmonton since 2008 when Daryl Katz bought the team for $200 million and did not pay all that much more to start at least the real estate process around it. And I'm sure a lot of owners look at that jealous that the opportunity was there, which he obviously seized on.
All right. So you and I talk a lot about platform companies, and we always go to Fenway. We say that right away, Harris Blitzer. And if I'm thinking north of the border and I say, give me a platform company north of the border, you will knee jerk and say Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Of course. OEG, by the way. All right, you ready? Oilers, the district, which as we just described is pretty damn significant. And I love this new thing where everybody is going to the games and hanging out outside. And what do you think they charge for beer? For the probably 10, 15,000 people. It's like having another arena full of folks.
Yeah, this is a relatively new development, I think, in American or North American pro sports. You sell out the arena when the team's on the road now for playoff games, which the Oilers are doing.
And you have the people outside.
Then you have this gathering outside. The Milwaukee Bucks did a great job with this a few years ago when they were making that run. The Deer District, yeah. It's just another gathering of large masses of people. And you're right, the beer prices I'm sure are similar to what they are inside, and you're selling concessions and you're building up downtown, and if you own all the real estate around it, all these people that come downtown before the game or during the game, if they go somewhere afterwards to drink or go somewhere afterwards
a reason to show up early, stay late,
or go shopping ahead of time, right? All that economics filters back into your pocket. It's also, sports is a very set calendar, and the hockey schedule runs from September to, if you're lucky, to June. And that's it, right? So having all of this real estate and development also means that the Oilers are getting money in 365 days a year, which is not true for a majority of sports teams here in the U.S. A lot of NFL teams, for example, they don't really use their venue for anything else. The Bengals aren't doing much money making between call it February and August. So the constant and consistent year-round, every day of the year revenue stream is also really valuable to have for sports teams.
I can't wait for the Novi Williams bar mitzvah in Edmonton. This is going to be wonderful. It's got to be a good catering hall somewhere.
I read Kurt's story and I was like, Edmonton sounds kind of cool. Maybe I should, go check that out.
You're that kind. But all right, I started. They have the Oilers, the district.
Yeah.
They have the rights to operate Rogers, which is the arena. And of course, if you're going to be a Canadian entity, you have to also own teams in the AHL and the WHL. So you have your minor league hockey teams as well, because, you just Have to.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the more under-discussed, undertold stories in sports that they've built a hell of a flywheel. Like the only thing they don't have that we say when we discuss all these platform companies is the network,
Is the media. Yeah.
is the media. Which, by the way, if they wanted to start anything, something tells me even a direct to consumer, some way, some shape, some form, anything focused on the Oilers in Edmonton would do really well. You know, any kind of shoulder programming, any sort of behind the scenes. Something tells me you could get people to fork over whatever it is, at $99 a month for their little mini version of Spulu.
I'd love to know what, as you said at the beginning, the way Kurt does our valuations, he's including team related businesses. So the 1.6 billion includes some of the development, but really not the bulk of
A
it.
small piece of the development.
I'd love to know what the whole thing might be worth, right?
Well, that's the thing.
Just curiosity is,
if we included it, they would skyrocket to number one. And it's
probably by a wide margin, right?
Yeah, and you're just wondering, is it a realistic
the Maple
look?
Leafs, and they're not that far above what they're just over 2, I think. If
it's just not a realistic look of what the valuation of what the team would be. So we sort of go against our own rules, but I do love the Badenhausen asterisk in there, saying that this is one of the rare instances where we do not include a team-related asset in the valuations, and I can see why here.
Another thing I find interesting, I'm curious if you feel the same way. I feel like the battery in Atlanta gets brought up in conversations that all the time.
All the time, people say
the thing that people point to. They're like, "Yeah, I want to."
Congratulations, Derek Schiller, you did it.
Nobody brings up.
Nobody
Edmonton
says OEG.
In my conversations, and it sounds like a way bigger. Obviously, it's significantly bigger, but also a more successful and broader project in some ways. It's interesting that the baseball situation in Atlanta has become the platonic ideal for a lot of people in our industry, and the Oilers one just seems to have been either forgotten about or people don't know about. I'm sure part of that is because it's a smaller city in Canada and not in the US, but that is something else that jumped out to me is just how often people reference the battery and how infrequently people, at least in my conversations, mention the Ice District.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought up the battery in LA Live right at the start, right?
Of course.
I'm impressed that you termed it the platonic ideal. Like, good for you. You must have gone to Princeton.
Jargon.
Yeah, that's some jargon. Anyway, where are we now? We're 2-2.
We're 2-1.
No, I'm talking. I'm going Rangers first. I'm going Rangers.
Rangers, yeah, 2-2.
Rangers are 2-2. All right, and we got the Oilers down as we record. Oilers down 2-1.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But you can guess the NHL would. What do you want? You got your biggest star in the game, Connor McDavid, in a city that does not count towards U.S. ratings, versus Dallas Stars, fair market size in the U.S., going against either the Rangers or the Florida Panthers. And I'm sure the powers that be at networks would love to be the New York Rangers.
Yeah, the East Coast one seems easy. I mean, I think the other one's easy too. I think Connor McDavid is what you want. I think you have a generational talent, the best player in the game by almost every consensus. And hockey's not a sport where that player is guaranteed success. In fact, we've seen the opposite in a lot of ways as a counterpoint to basketball, where very consistently the best players in basketball are making the conference finals or making the finals. Hockey has not shaped up that way. It is, depending on where you sit, it's a fatal flaw of the sport, or it's a thing that you love about the sport. I happen to be in the latter category. But yes, I think and anyone involved in hockey, I think the more you can expose casuals to Connor McDavid, I think would consider that a win for the sport because of how exciting he is.
Well, then you better get the New York Rangers, because a whole lot of casuals ain't showing up for Edmonton, Florida.
Yeah, I think that's part of the concern. I've joked on the show. My partner Janet is an Oilers fan. The reason she's an Oilers fan.
Whoa! What do you mean? Janet's an Oilers fan? First time hearing this. Where did that happen?
I'll tell you how it happened. We were watching the skills competition, the NHL skills competition. And she just saw
Connor skating quickly.
She watched for 5 minutes, and I can't remember who it was.
He turned backwards and beat somebody.
A couple others, and then Connor went, and she was like, "Am I crazy, or is like this guy significantly better than everybody else I've seen go?"
The answer is yes.
She thought that like it was like different leagues, or like he was the NHL player and the other guys were in college. Like, she had no idea, but she was like, "Am I nuts?" And I was like, "No, that's actually the best player in hockey and probably the best skater in hockey." So yeah, again, I think there is an opportunity, particularly with players of his caliber and his obvious kind of charisma on the ice, that I think there's an opportunity for people to find it. So yeah, I think if you're the NHL, the more high profile games you can get the Oilers and your best player playing in, I think that's better for the sport.
Well, you know the hockey adage that applies to the Florida Panthers, and they are just ferocious. But I'll start it. Let me see if you know it. I'll say forecheck.
Back check, paycheck, right?
There you go. Forecheck,
Yeah.
back check,
Yeah,
paycheck.
yeah.
That defines your Florida Panthers. I don't know how much the casual fan wants to see that. They'd love to see Mika Zibanejad and Panarin going crazy on the power play, scoring one-time goals.
So I don't want to get too deep into hockey fandom.
Why not?
Here,
you know I love it.
But I think stylistically, the Panthers and the Oilers are an awesome matchup of very different teams, very different styles of play. Boy. And again, I think even people who aren't adamant fans of the sport could watch that and actually really digest that, like, oh, this team and that team want to do two very different things. They seem to have players that fit two very different skill sets.
The Oilers would get 4 breakaways a game, and if they don't score on all 4, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and the Panthers would make it very physical and very dirty, yes. And they'd have a lot of offensive zone possession, not unlike kind of what they're doing with the Rangers right now, who are more physical than the Oilers.
You know what? We got to bug Sean Thornton, our pal, friend of the program, Sean Thornton, former player. Yeah, head of revenue now for the Panthers. If they make it all the way through, we got to have Sean on the show.
Yeah, and thinking about just geographically, Dallas, Florida, one of Gary Bettman's big pushes in the past 2 decades of his commissionership was an adamant belief, that the sport could thrive and be successful in parts of the American South that maybe weren't originally considered to be hockey markets. And Vegas, a newcomer that obviously had success very early on in its tenure. The Coyotes did not work out, right? So there's an opposite antidote to that argument. But to have Dallas and to have San Jose, or to have Dallas and to have Florida at this point right now, the success of the Lightning recently, the hockey is excelling on the ice and off the ice business-wise in a lot of markets that I think would have surprised people 15 years ago.
And as we see sort of the professionalization and consolidation of youth sports by a lot of these pro sports team owners and investors, let me tell you, you would not know this, but would you think that there would be a, let me use your word, robust youth program in Dallas?
That would surprise me. Yeah.
Well, I would tell you that the junior team there that we play against, the Stars, are really good. Mm-hmm. They've got a very, very good program in Dallas, and they wear the same colors, the whole thing. You see the green come out, you know it's them, not the lime green of the Chicago Mission, but the Stars green. By the way, Mission also coached by a former NHL player, as, by the way, is the team we play in Florida. There's a team called the Florida Alliance. Okay. They take the best players from the States. Coach is Trevor Daley, former NHL player. His son is a heck of a player, also 09, heck of a player. So, I think that the NHL teams have in those markets done exactly what Gary Bettman wanted it to do. That's create a fan base and then have it trickle down to the kids who are the fans of the future.
Austin Matthews is maybe the best example, right?
And unfortunately, Arizona's not working right now.
I know, but
I think it's location.
It's crazy to think that maybe Austin Matthews is not in the NHL if the NHL had never put a franchise in Arizona to begin with. So, yeah.
All right. Speaking of Dallas, let's switch to basketball. You got the Mavs. Maybe they're up 3-1, and the Celtics. That would be. I mean, you've got Luka Doncic, you've got Kyrie Irving, and of course, you've got the Celtics. You got to be enjoying that if you are the NBA on the verge of a new rights deal, new media deals. Yeah, I don't think you can get much more than that.
It would be a good matchup. I think that I don't think the NBA loves that the Celtics swept the conference finals, right? You'd rather anything more than 4.
You always want 6 games. It's always about games.
Celtics, yeah. I mean, I think they played 13 games.
Yeah.
In through 3 series. It has not been. They're barn rushing through the Eastern Conference, or at least they have.
Best defensive backcourt in the NBA, and then they're gonna, if they move on to the Mavs, that's gonna be. I think we got a little trouble for Kyrie in that one. That might be a little difficult.
Yeah, so I'm not a big basketball guy, so the on court stuff I don't know that well. But yeah, I think that having Boston there seems great. Although again, you'd rather them have at least a challenge in some capacity at some point in the run up to get here. Getting the Mavs back there. Yeah, Luka, I put in the same, this may be dumb, but I'm put in the same category of Nikola Jokic, which is that when I watch him, I understand that he is insanely talented, but I also like can't quite figure out why or how. Right? He's not physically imposing. He's not in the best shape. He's not doing crazy things physically that I don't understand. But he's obviously one of the top players in the NBA.
Would you have said the same thing about Nowitzki? I mean, he can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass, he can rebound, he can everything. They do it all.
Maybe. Yeah. Dirk, I just at least, and I don't want to linger too much on these guys' bodies. Dirk at least had like a basketball player build to me in a way that I felt I could understand.
Chunky is what I'm hearing. Wow. Okay.
He's also not that tall. I'm out of my depth here a little bit.
He's a big dude.
I do think that, I think that in the same way that having Connor McDavid in the Stanley Cup Finals is great for basketball, I think having some of these guys in the NBA Finals is also great for the NBA. And I would say the same if the Timberwolves make this a series and end up shocking the sport. Having Anthony Edwards in the Finals was amazing. Also, a very charismatic and dynamic scorer and dunker and dribbler. I think there's star power in all of it that's left.
All right, I'm just looking it up here because, as we know, ever since sports betting and data became a thing in pro sports years ago, the NBA made sure that its measurements are accurate. Remember the league officials telling us way back when, if we can't measure the measurable, how can we trust any data that we put out?
Yeah.
And then they started charging for real data. So what do we got here on Luka? This is 6'7", 230. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's taller than I was expecting.
6'7", 230 for Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
So I'm that. But from a dollars and cents standpoint, as you've said, it's more important to get more games than who's playing. There's that people are like, oh, we want this team, we want that team. As any commissioner, as any TV executive has told us throughout the years, they'll take the smallest market team in 7 over a sweep of New York or LA. You got to have the more games means more money.
Of the 3 teams who are left, if folks are curious, Boston, by far the most valuable according to Sportico's rankings, $5.12 billion. That's the 4th most valuable team in basketball. The Mavericks are number 11 at $4.03 billion. And you got to scroll all the way down to 28 to find the Minnesota Timberwolves at $2.94 billion. Something else that you and I have talked about specifically about that Western Conference matchup. Two teams that are going through ownership transitions, one of which by at least all public appearances seems to have gone very smoothly. We still see Mark Cuban on the sideline cheering during this Mavericks run. Obviously, he sold the controlling interest of the team to the Adelson family last year in a surprise that we dove deep into. And then on the other side, you have the Glenn Taylor transition, maybe to A-Rod and Mark Lowry, which is in a legal battle that is extended now into month number 4. And there's an arbitration happening at some point in the next 5 months, probably at the back end of that stretch, to decide who actually rightfully does own the team or has an opportunity to own the team. Very messy in Minnesota, as opposed to what at least appears to be quite a clean and easy transition in Dallas.
Right, you got to keep talking because there's something I want to do, but I have to Google it. So, keep talking anything you want there.
Yeah, I think one other thing I'll say about the Timberwolves there.
Yeah, go ahead. But I got it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, last thing I was going to say about the Timberwolves is I do wonder how much the tenor of their ownership fight changes once the team's no longer playing. Yeah. And as we record right now, they're down 3-1. That could happen very soon, or they could rally, and it could be another few weeks. But I do wonder, and some folks who I talked to have also wondered, once the best team that Glenn Taylor has had in 2 decades, once that run is over, does his approach or feeling about this legal battle change at all? And that remains to be seen, and we'll get an answer to that at some point in the next few weeks.
Okay, I'm going to show you a picture of somebody. You let me know, and this will decide whether or not we do the story. I had an idea. So, who is this person? Without reading the bottom name there, I got to cover it up. Who is that?
Oof.
Don't say you can't see it, because I know you can.
I have a guess given the conversation that we're having.
Oh, okay. So what's your guess?
Is that Patrick Dumont?
That is Patrick Dumont. Okay. But You would not have known just by looking at the picture.
There's no chance if I hadn't been primed to the basics of our conversation.
All right.
Yeah,
so this is the guy who pretty much controls the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, he is Miriam
controlling
Adelson's
of it, yeah.
stepson. I believe is the relationship there. But yes, he's the one in charge of
Son-in-law.
the Mavericks now. Son-in-law. Sorry, yes,
I think
son-in-law, not stepson.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So all right, we got to do a story on who is Patrick. Come on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think again, the transition happened at a strange time, and given a full off season, maybe things would look a little different. But you're right. I think Mark Cuban is still largely the marketing face of the ownership group of the Dallas Mavericks, and maybe that's preferred by the Adelson family, which I would also totally understand. But you're right. I think a deeper dive into
speaking of sports teams and real estate desires, we can look right there at the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
All right. And speaking of desires, how about what they got going on in Pittsburgh in baseball? We all talk about what's happening in Kansas City, Taylor Swift showing up, the Travis Kelce. And I liked it that one of our sources called the Paul Skeens Livy Dunn, like the light version of Taylor and Travis. I'm compliment or not, I don't know. But if I'm the Pirates, man, I got to figure out a way to just absolutely bring her into this marketing campaign. She's very active on social. She's got a huge following across all of her platforms. And Paul Skeens is going to be one hell of a pitcher too when you start throwing 100 miles an hour. He's worth watching alone. And then you bring in sort of the celebrity sideshow of Livy Dunn, and you got a little something going on there. I just haven't seen the Pittsburgh Pirates looking to take advantage of it yet, not in a big way.
Yeah, I was going to say the putting her aside for a second. He just seems super cool as an athlete, right? And baseball, in my opinion, has not done a good enough job of leaning into athletes like that outside of just the day-to-day nature of the sport are doing things that you could just watch and be like, wow, that's awesome. And it took the Pirates a while to bring him up, even though he was lighting the minors on fire. Yeah, I would love to see baseball or the Pirates or both just do more with him. I once stood in for a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah. Shout out to David Hale, who was a star of the Princeton baseball team.
No chance.
He went on to
was
play.
Was that lightweight baseball?
Yeah, that was. I was playing lightweight baseball. They were that was the heavy team. Yeah, I understood going in that it was going to be an experience. Yeah, it's shocking. It's awe-inspiring. It's awesome. So yeah, I would like to see them do more with him. But you're right. The tandem of young, cool MLB star, and then the relationship he has with the most famous college athlete in the country right now. Now that Caitlin Clark is no longer a college athlete. Livy Dunn is a huge star, and for folks who don't know who she is or don't know much about her, you're just not in the influencer culture world where she is
like me,
absolute.
Yeah, you're just not into the Insta
celebrity. So yeah, I think there's certainly a lot to do, and yeah, Taylor Swift and Kelce Light is funny, but there's probably a lot of circles where she is more influential than Taylor is. So yeah, there's more there for baseball, for the Pirates, and for Paul and Livy to do if they want to.
Did you see the video of the kid that was asked, like, hey, what do you like about Paul Skeens?
No, I didn't see that.
Probably like a 10-year-old boy. Like, what do you like about, Paul Skeens, 10, 12, whatever the heck he was. I don't know. And he goes, I like the mustache. And then he goes, and I like Livy Dunn. By the way, she responded to the video, I like the mustache too. Which was, nice. But that's great. That's how you make it happen. That's how you get this to steamroll.
They did a video when he was called up, right? Where
she was driving
or she was driving, but they were in the car. It's that kind of stuff that I don't know what his marketing genius is, but she gets it. She understands.
He's sitting in the driver's seat going, "Would you put the phone away?"
Marketing in a social media world.
So I got to make sure I don't get my doors blown off in this first start in the bigs. Put the phone away. Let me do something first. Like you said, she gets it.
And something tells me that baseball, this has been a push for baseball for the past few years, is to try to do more on the marketing side with his athletes. And some of that is on baseball, and some of that obviously is on the athletes themselves. And baseball has been trying to bridge that gap, and I think in some ways they've done it successfully, in other ways they haven't. But Paul is a great example of.
Let me ask you this:
the more you use him, the better.
Let me ask you this: if I asked 3 metrics on which to judge a Major League Baseball team, I don't know, a star worthy of paying money to go see.
Okay.
The stadium, and sort of like celebrity cool. Who ranks ahead of the Pittsburgh Pirates right now?
I mean, the Dodgers.
Dodgers,
obviously.
yeah, you got the Dodgers. Yep, okay, I'll give you the Dodgers, and if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm not taking offense to that.
No, the Yankees.
Yeah.
I mean, from a venue standpoint, I would probably put the Cubs and the Red Sox in there as well. I don't know. I'm not a huge baseball guy either. Are there big ones that I'm not thinking?
I don't think so. That's the point.
The Pirates have an amazing venue.
Amazing venue.
Awesome young star.
Now you got a guy I would pay to see Paul Skeens pitch. The guy's coming up with like 70% of his pitches are 100 plus. I want to see that.
The challenge is that he's only playing one every 5 days. Right?
That's okay. Yeah, he's got.
I mean, he's not like
tell him he's got to be a hitter too.
Judge,
look at what Shohei Ohtani's doing
every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes things a little bit different. I'm curious if are the Pirates any good?
I have no idea.
I'm looking at the schedule at the standings right now. I have not.
No idea.
I don't follow enough to know.
Question: What was the name of your dude who threw the 100 at you?
David Hale.
David Hale. I had a similar experience in high school. Not quite 100, but I'll give shout out to Jared Stein, who went on. I believe he still holds a bunch of records at Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. So go look up Jared Stein and see where he still ranks in the record books on some stuff. But he threw about 90. And I had never played baseball, so I was like, I want to see what it's like. Let me face. So I step in. All I said to him was, "Don't hit me." Did you say that to your buddy? Don't hit me.
He said he wasn't going to hit me. I wasn't even holding a bat, by the way. I was like,
I was in there. I'm like, I just want to see what it's like.
Feel it.
So he wasn't cooking at 90. He probably threw about 83 to 85. He wasn't going all out. And I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. There's no way. Again, I'm going back to age 17 or whatever, trying to see this. And then my idiot friend, unlike yours, what does he do? I don't know if I told you the story.
Did he hit you?
No. He wouldn't. No, I would have taken the bat and beat him up if he did. No, but he broke off a curveball without telling me. And I absolutely threw the bat, hit the dirt, threw the bat, and the thing just broke right over the plate for like a strike. And it's like, you're such a fill in the word, I used at the time. But amazing. That's what I said. I don't know how these guys do what they do. If you've never seen, like I always say all the time, you haven't seen an NFL game until you've watched it from the sideline. You have no idea how strong, fast, how hard these guys hit unless you're up close. You just don't get it. Yeah. And if you've never been in the box for a guy throwing 90 whatever plus miles an hour, you have absolutely zero real appreciation for how difficult it is to do what they do. It's insane.
And technology, and we can wrap it on this, but hopefully at some point technology will help with this, right? I do think that more people would feel a different way about baseball if they could really feel that. And there's no way to do that unless you have someone who's willing to throw 95 miles an hour.
VR, baby, VR.
Standing there. So yeah, there's probably a way in presentation of games and stuff to figure this out. I'm not convinced that the NFL maybe wants that, to be totally honest. The violence of an NFL game, I think maybe a little bit of separation between that and
darn well the NFL players have chips in their shoulder pads that measure data, including impact collision that they do not release to the public, of course.
There's no next gen stats on
how hard somebody just got smacked
of direction.
Yeah, how fast somebody's neck whipped left and right. No,
exactly.
That is not happening. Yeah. All right, close it up.
He is Scott Soshnick. You can find him on Twitter at Soshnick. I am Eben Novi Williams. You can find me on Twitter at Novi_Williams. The show is produced by Aaron Greenewald. Thank you to Aaron. Sportico's digital media editor Cora Veltman would like you to know that you can
stutter
follow
on the
show.
Interesting.
Sporticast,
little stutter,
which is the hub.
That's burning you right now. That's burning you. Never stutter on Cora Veltman
Network.